Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is James Mallory with E2B Technologies. I'd like to thank you all for taking time out for the webinar today. Just a few housekeeping items while we wait for some last-minute attendees to come in. You will all be on mute today. If you have a question, we certainly encourage you to ask questions. Please use the question panel within GoToWebinar. Within the GoToWebinar console itself, there's a little orange tab that'll appear. If you want to click on that, it'll push the GoToWebinar console out of the way so you can see the full screen. If you want to expand it back over to ask a question, simply click that tab again, and that'll pull back over into view. I see that we are at the top of the hour. So what I want to do is I want to introduce to you Laura Lashin, who is the Altec Sales Director. We've been working with Altec for a long time. Many of our customers have been on their product with various ERP systems that we integrate with. The topic today is going to be Go Paperless with Sage ERP Document Management, and it is my true pleasure to turn it over to Laura.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and thank you folks for attending today. Appreciate the opportunity to discuss about document management and how we can help your organization be more efficient, streamline your process, drive down some of your costs, and and also go paperless at the same time. So we're going to start this presentation in 1 second here. Looks like we have. Okay. For some reason this pause. I'm sorry here, we're having some technical difficulty. James, did you pass it over to me because it's paused?
Let's see here. I'm going to make me the presenter. I'm going to go back to Laura. So it should be back in your hands.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about document management and what is document management. Believe it or not, all of us are doing some kind of document management today. The file cabinet that you have is a form of document management. It's not the most efficient way or the most secure way, but it is a way of managing your documents. Now, some of you have what we call the multi-function device, so network, copier, scanner, printer in one. So some of you are scanning documents in and storing on a network share folder. That is also another form of document management. However, you're going to eventually, over time, run into searching issue or security to the document. Because unless you're the person who stored it away, you're not going to be able to find those documents efficiently. How often do we go in and we know, I know that document was there last week or that folder was there last week, and magically it disappeared. All of us were happy mouse clicker. So, so that's the issue you're going to be running into. This is why there's full document management software out there like DocLink that we're going to present to you today. Now your question is, why should you go into document management? First of all, is there are many reasons, but just to cover a few, some of you may have multiple offices throughout the world. Some of you are telecommuting or working off-site very often. So the ability to able to have access to your documents from anywhere at any time, that is very helpful. Also increase efficiencies. I hear, and bottleneck is I hear all the time, we can't get the invoice approved on time because James is out traveling and we have to wait for him to get back into the office. Or Joe needs to approve the invoice, but we can't locate him and we just cannot get him to approve it on time. Okay? What about centralized storage? Again, many of you have multiple offices, and the idea is to have one central location where all the documents are to be stored, but yet all of you at all the locations are able to have access to the document. Okay. Compliancy and security. Some of you are having to meet with HIPAA requirements and Sarbanes-Oxley and other government-regulated policy. Yes, our system can help with that. Disaster preparedness. Unfortunately, many of us do not look into going paperless until something happens to your data. Fire, a flood, earthquake. So now you rush and panic, and because your original document's been destroyed. So with document management, you are able to store all your documents into a server. Backup is being done. So if something does happen to your data, no worries. We're going to be able to restore your information from backup. Okay. Overhead costs. Like I said, for example, for printing and copying, the toners, off-site storage that you're paying for. You're paying for someone to manage your file, store your files, and find your files. All of those, overhead costs that we don't, realize that we're paying every day. Okay. So here's a quick look of a research done by AIM. Where some of the costs, for the return the investment. Look at the cost of printing and storing the papers and making copies and the bulk copies. I bet you have the same document copied multiple times because Joe wanted in their project folder, Lisa in AP wanted their folder, shipping receiving department wanted in their office also. Okay, and also the routing, of the documents and getting it through the hands and getting it approved efficiently. So here's just a conservative cost for a good ROI. We would be happy to sit down with you, go through your process, and give you a true return on investment for your organization. Okay, so some of you are running out of storage space, and you're telling us you just need a software to be able to store your documents and is able to search for your documents. And that's fine. The system can be used as a standalone system for storage and retrieval of documents. Now, when it comes to storing, there are many methods how we can capture your data. If you have them in hard copy, well, you're going to have to scan them in. But some of you are also receiving emails attachments, like vendors are emailing invoices to you. They're emailing orders to you, purchase orders to you, okay? Or electronic faxing. We can store your emails and email attachments into the system. So there is no need for you to print it out and scan them in. There are documents that you generate internally that you want to store into the file cabinet, like the purchase order. Wouldn't it be nice to just automatically store a copy of your purchase order to the system, or a copy of the invoice that you generated, or a copy of the payment that you generate? So we have an ability, an earned feature here, ability to store a copy of any in-house generated documents into this electronic file cabinet without the need for you to print it out and scan them in. Okay? And then we have other methods also. We read barcodes and OCR for batch scanning and storing of your documents. At the end of the day, just know that there are numerous methods how we can capture your documents and information into the system. Once it's in the system, it's now searchable. The key benefit to the integration with Sage is that now you have two places where you can search and find your information, and that is within Sage. But then you have a lot of staff that don't have access to Sage. So they will search for documents through DocLink. So you now have two places where you can find your information. But then also you have multiple offices, you're not connected to the same network, you're traveling, so through the web and the mobile device, those are other methods how you can search and have access to your documents. But then some of you have live working documents. Take example, AP invoices. You need to be routed around, action to take upon, different people for approval because they're live working documents. So this is where we have tools to help with the processing of those documents that we're going to talk about today. In addition to that, we also have a way to automate the output, the distribution of your documents. And we're going to talk about that today too. All right. So let's take a look at document management through the eye of your team, the different departments within your company. The most trouble spot in most organizations is the AP department. We can't get the invoice approved on time because Shane's always traveling, and we can't take advantage of early pay discount, but in turn we're paying for penalty fee because we're delayed with payment. Minimizing data entry and accessing visibility to the document. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Invoice comes in by mail, email. It all gets stored into the document system. And now, workflow, we're going to notify. Okay, we're going to send out email notification to your approvers. So yeah, you could be traveling, you could be sitting at the beach, sipping on a margarita, and still be working. All you need is access to your email. You don't need to have software loaded. So with the email, notice here, we attach the documents to your email. It will have information what that that invoice is about. And directly from the email, you can approve or deny directly from your email. So you open up the document, the invoice, review it, and click on the approve or reject button directly from the email. The minute that you click on the approve or reject button, it's logged in an audit log. So for audit reasons. Okay, so you know exactly who approved it or who rejected and when. That is one way. And yes, we are compatible with Android and mobile device. Now you're sitting there thinking, well, we get 1,000 invoices a week. We're not going to send out 1,000 emails to the CFO. Well, the other option is an email alert. This alert can be sent out on a time basis, hourly or at the end of the day. You decide when. This alert just to tell you, hey, John, there are 5 invoices waiting for your approval. One is overdue because you were allowed 24 hours to act on it and is now past the 24-hour time limit. And also, one, you have an early pay discount. We want to take advantage of the early pay discount. So now then John can log into the system, take a look at those invoices, and take action. We have customers using this alert for reporting purpose. Well, manager wants to monitor the workload. How many invoices came in, how many is overdue, and why did John process only 5 invoices today and Lisa process 20? You're going to find that with the workflow, it gives you the ability to track the workload of your staff, okay, and know exactly where the invoice is at, who's working on it, how long it's going to take before it's completed, okay. So managers, supervisor, you are going to love workflow because you're now able to monitor the workload of your staff. Staff, general staff, going to hate workflow because it's now accountability. Okay. So that's a little bit about the workflow. Now let's think about the accounting feature. The typical process for invoices, it comes in, AP staff send it out to the department staff. The department staff takes a look at it, and often they will write the account code or JAP code on the invoice. It will eventually make its way back to the AP staff. AP staff try to read the handwriting and input the same data into Sage. If you don't agree with me, that's double work. That's a waste of company staff time, okay? But the reason why you need to do that is because the department staff do not have access to Sage. Well, we can resolve that issue. So when invoice comes in, workflow will notify the department staff. Department staff will log into the document system. They do not need to have access to Sage, okay? They will look at the invoice. Notice to the right here, we are connected directly to Sage and access to the GL master file. We can secure it down so certain staff will have access to only certain GL codes. If there are certain vendors that you deal with all the time using the same code, we can set that up as a default. So now the staff looks at the invoice and can select the appropriate account code or just click on approve. And also because we're connected directly with Sage, you can start typing the vendor name. It will go to Sage and populate, pull over the vendor information, the payment term, and so on. Once you're done with the import button here, we can then, we will create a cover sheet with all the coding information. And once that's done, we're going to import all that data over to Sage. All that coding information here over to Sage, so that AP staff do not have to do that same data entry. Now, we're human, we make errors. Jane select the wrong code or enter the wrong dollar amount. No problem. AP staff can still make the changes in Sage, and the back end of the database, the system will update each other. So you do not need to make the correction in both places. Now, you are going to run into department staff to say, hey, we don't want to deal with selecting any code. We just like writing the code like we normally do on the invoice. No problem. But let's help you go paperless. So instead of them handwriting the code on the invoice and the AP trying playing the guessing game, they can use our sticky notes. They can type notes in our system, so it's easier to read. We have annotation tools here. They can draw a line, clip, block off certain confidential information. And then it gets to AP, and AP can open up the invoice and the supplemental documents like the packing slip, delivery ticket, the purchase order, what have you. They can view all those documents within Sage. They will perform their coding like they normally do. And once they're done, the system is going to pass all that coding that's been performed over to DocLink, tying this information to the invoice and all the associated documents. Now you're asking, why do we need to pass all this data over to DocLink? It's because so that later on you can search by this information. Wouldn't it be nice later on to be able to go into DocLink or Sage and say, hey, show me all the invoice or documents that has GL code of 555-000-300. Or give me all the invoice for Division 1. Okay? So this is for searching purpose. So that's the accounting feature that's between Sage and DocLink. Now, when the invoice has been approved, you're going to cut the payment in Sage. With this earn function here, we are going to capture, we give you the ability where we can capture an image of that payment and store that into DocLink, and this payment is tied to all the invoices that it's paid for and all the associated documents. You do not need to print it out and scan them in. With this feature here, once it's configured, when you process the payment, we automatically capture an image of your payment along with data about that invoice. This payment is tied to all the invoices here, so later on you can go in, hey, show me the payment that we paid for invoice 009. It's going to bring up this payment. Show me the payment for invoice 011. It's going to bring up the same payment. And you can do the same searching in DocLink and in Sage. So that is a little bit about the AP process for the AP invoices. Now, what about the searching? Like I said, you can access and search for those documents in Sage, but there are many staff who do not have access to Sage. But let them do their own searching. Why do they have to call AP staff and wait for the AP staff to find a copy of that payment or to verify the invoice is processed or not? Let them do their own searching. So here is an example of the user interface screen for DocLink searching. Note here, we can accommodate multiple companies. That's another big plus. So if you have 5 companies, 10 companies, 30 companies, no problem. They all can be using the same system. Within each company, now notice there are different types of documents stored in each of the companies. When you store documents into our system, we need to identify what type of document is it, okay? And attached to each document type is set or defined property values, and this is for searching. So for the searching here, I can go in and tell the system, find for me all documents associated with the vendor Altec for all the companies. Or you know what? Wait a minute. Find for me only the AP invoice for Fabricon company for invoice, particular invoice number. So you type in the invoice number. The system now located one invoice based on that invoice number, and here's all the information about that invoice. But we can go further. What if you decide, hey, show me all the documents associated with this vendor or with this purchase order number? You just click on it. It's going to now bring up all the documents associated with that purchase order number. You just select them all. With a simple click, the system's going to bring up all the documents on a tile format or on a thumbnail format. So there's no need for you to open and close, or have multiple screens open. Now, AP staff loves this feature because now you have visibility to all the documents on the one screen, and you can do your matching. Okay. Now, the process typically will start where when the purchase department creates a purchase order, we're going to capture an image of that purchase order and store it to the system. Now that the good or service has been delivered to the shipping department, you do your receiving, and you will scan in your packing slip and delivery ticket into the system, and it's going to get tied to the purchase order. And then now when the AP department gets the invoice, they store it into DocLink, and it gets tied to all those associated documents. And now, instantly, they can do their matching. So there is no waiting for the shipping department to courier over the packing slip, or for the purchase department to send over the purchase order. They're all in the system, visit app, and instantly access to the AP department. And they can do their manual matching. Okay. We can also, by the way, set the system to do automatic matching too. Okay, there's the purchase order, packing slip, invoice, and finally, when you cut the payment, a copy of the payment is tied to or linked to all those documents. So you have a full trail of all the documents from beginning to end, all in your file cabinet. Okay, let's think about, what about corporate credit cards? Some of you AP staff are spending hours or days at the end of the month to do the corporate credit card reconsolidation. Okay, so as you know, many credit card companies now offers the statement in CSV format. So all we need to do is create a template of your credit card statement. Now, once the bank sends you the statement, you're just going to import it in. Because it's in CSV format, all the charges are itemized out. And now, with a simple click, the system is going to create a separate statement per each cardholder with their itemized charges. And now you can upload your receipt and attach it to the statement. Use workflow to route it around for review and approval. And you can also do your GL coding of each of the transactions. And yes, we can push this data over to Sage so that AP don't have to do the same data entry. Ladies and gentlemen, tasks that's been taking AP staff hours or days are now down to literally minutes. So that's a little bit about for corporate credit card. Now, let's talk about your account receivable. Some of you do monthly account receivable invoice run. Okay, right now is you create the invoice, and some of your a customer wants to see a copy of the signed delivery ticket with that invoice, or a copy of the contract or the purchase order with that invoice. So staff have to go to the file cabinet and look for those documents, make copies or scan them in, attach to the invoice, and then email it out. Very time consuming. So with our solution, what we do is when you generate the invoice in Sage, we will capture an image of the invoice and store it into Document. At the same time, we are going to go and look for that signed delivery ticket or the contract or the purchase order and attach it to the invoice. We then will read the email address on the invoice or in Sage and automatically email it out for you. If you use electronic faxing, then we will automatically fax it out. If we don't recognize any of those criteria, we will automatically send it to a default printer. Okay? So on that email, you will have the invoice along with the signed delivery ticket. And all you have to do is just create the invoice, and the system does the rest. Great time savings. The same tools here can be used for your purchase order department. When they generate a purchase order, they have to send it out to Mr. Vendors. And sometimes you want to attach the terms and conditions or delivery instructions. Well, if those documents are living in Duckling, so all you have to do is create a purchase order, then it's going to go into Duckling, look for that delivery instruction document, attach it to the purchase order, and automatically email it out for you. Okay? You could also use the same tool for sales order processing. When you receive an order from the customer, you go into Sage to create a sales order. You create the order acknowledgement in Sage. We can automatically send out that sales order acknowledgement. The same tool can be used for payroll, many other areas within your organization. Okay, let's take a look at your accounting manager. Their concern is, of course, visibility to what's happening with the documents, the invoices, and, for improving staff time and managing any exceptions. I mentioned that we have a full audit log that will track every single activity. Who logged in, what time, what date, what action was performed to which document. You can also secure down each permission for your users. Can they print? Can they email? Can they delete? Can they view files? You can control the security down by the keystroke. Our security is very granular to help you comply with HIPAA requirements. And what about, like I said, is accountability to the document. You can go in and know exactly where the document's at, the status of the document, how long it's going to take before it's completed. So here's an example. We know some invoices here. These invoices are at the accounts payable right now, waiting for their review. These invoices are waiting to be processed. They just received it, but nothing has been done. This invoice here has been approved, or it has not been approved. Okay, so it's visibility of where the document's at in the approval stage. Okay, your CFO, of course, their main cost is to save money, cut down on costs, simplify audit process. So some of you are paying for offsite storage. Company like Iron Mountain. Why are you paying for a company to store your files, to manage your files, to search your files? And what about all the file cabinets that you have in your office? Those are storage. Those are the square footage that you're paying could be used for office space for staff instead of file cabinets. Okay. So all you have to do is store all those documents in, and no more offsite storage, no more file cabinets. And what about audits? Many of you give regular audits. So some of the customers, what you can do is you can create a login for your auditor, and the auditor can go in and do their own searching. Now you may have some external auditors. So what you can do is you can go into the system. Here, the auditors want to see all the AP documents for all of your companies and within a certain date range. So you insert your search criteria with a simple click in seconds. The system is going to bring up all the documents associated with that search criteria. And now you can just download those documents to a CD or DVD. But when you download, we can actually also include the search engine with that, so that the auditor can go in and ask us to show me the check for a company named Sinclair. And the system will bring up in seconds all the checks for Sinclair. Okay. But the employees, many of you, like me, I travel a lot and I need to submit expense report. Many of you are using the good old Excel spreadsheet. Okay. So what we can do is we can create a template of your expense report. So now when the staff like travel using the mobile app, they can just take pictures of the receipt. It then automatically gets uploaded into the document system. And then now when they're ready, they just go in, log in. The system will autofill their name, the expense report date, the expense report number. We are connected to Sage to all the expense codes. So all they have to do is select the description from a drop-down list, and it will autofill the expense code for them, and they type in the dollar amount. Okay, and of course the receipt is already attached, and with a simple click, we create the expense report in your format with all their itemized charges with the receipt attached. And now you use workflow to route the expense report around for review and approval. And you can do your GL coding of those expenses, and then we can push all that data over to Sage so AP staff don't have to do the same data entry. The same system you can also expand to HR. HR is the second most paper-intensive department in most organizations. But HR concern is security, and I already addressed the security for you. That is very granular. You can control who can have access to which documents and what can they do within the system. We have a full audit log, okay? Streamlining your onboarding process. When you onboard new staff, there's a lot of forms that have to be completed, okay? We can create templates of those forms so that we can look into your HR database, pull over the employee first name, last name, mailing address, what have you, and autofill the form as much as possible for you. Okay? You can also track certification of your employee with the system. Okay? So with that, like I said, you can expand the system to HR department and make sure that you comply with the hiring process. Because when you hire, there's a lot of action that has to be done. So we can help you monitor all those actions to make sure that it's being completed and when. And keeping all your employee files together and have it searchable. For IT, like I said, they're concerned making sure meeting industry standards, disaster recovery. We already discussed about that. Okay, and workflow delegation. So with your sales side, we can monitor your email server. When your orders are coming in, we can automatically pull all those orders, monitor your email for a specific email address. So anything that comes into that email address, we're automatically going to grab it, store it into the document system, and then workflow then will notify the appropriate staff for action. The same tools can be used to monitor for your AP invoice, vendor invoices. Many of our customers create a generic vendor invoice email address and request that the vendor email all the invoices to that specific email address. So when our system will monitor for that email address, when invoice comes in, it automatically gets ingested into DocLink, and then it will notify the AP staff for action. Okay. With the mobile device, I already mentioned you can take pictures of receipts, but you also store other types of documents into the system by your your mobile device, and you can have access to documents on your mobile device. Also, you can search and have access to your workflow inbox. That's through the mobile app. Some of our customers use our system for contract management. Why? Because we now have document collaboration. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about for manufacturing industry. Okay, all those documents that you generate, purchase order to travelers and delivery retreat and lot tracking, all those documents can be stored into the system, workflow routing for approval until you finally have the finished product. But we have version control, check-in, check-out capability. So you can store your documents in draft mode in our system. We have customers storing their AutoCAD drawings and able to make changes to those AutoCAD drawings. We have customers using for contract. You have a draft contract that's in Word. You can store it into our system. Workflow now will notify you to review and make edits to this contract. You can log in, check the document out, work on it. In the meantime, no one else can work on that same contract because you already checked it out. They can look at it, they just can't work on it. Once you're done, you check the document back in, and the system will keep all the history version of the document. Based on the user permission when they go in, if they can have access to the final version of the document or all the history of the document. For those of you in the distribution industry, okay, tracking of your supporting documents, okay, able to store them instantly when you have access to those documents, and able to have access to documents, when you're off-site. So with the web module, you're able to search for documents. No software needs to be loaded. You also have access to your workflow inbox. So if there's any orders, any invoice that needs to be processed, approved, you can do so on the web. Okay. And for those of you in the field service, you're working off-site, making sure that you comply with all the requirements and also at the same time expedite the billing process. So you're off-site, using your mobile device, you can have access to your work order, you process the work order, Mr. Customer can sign the orders, and then now, of course, once it's done, you just click on Done or Approve, and then now workflow will notify the AR department for invoicing instantly. Instead of waiting for you to come back to the office, bring back the signed work order, and then AR invoice. Electronic form, when you're out in the field. Fill out a work order report. Perform your work. Have Mr. Customer sign the work order. A copy gets stored into DocLink. Workflow notify AR department for invoicing. It's that quickly. So as you can see, we have all the tools to help you and use the system not only in the AR department or AP department, but company-wide. Each department have their own business process and requirements. Okay, so you can deploy it. Like I said, most will start in AP/AR, but then they'll expand the same system to HR department and other areas within your organization. So at the end of the day, we have the tool, we have the solution to help you streamline your business process, be more efficient, be compliant, reduce costs, have instant access to your documents, and at the same time go paperless. So now it's up to you to take the initiative and decide what area within your organization that you want to start going paperless in. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop for any questions.
Excellent presentation, Laura. I'm going to expand the panel over. We're going to wait for a couple questions to come in. There's one here already, but before we get to that one, I just want to summarize a little bit kind of our experience working with Altec and with document management. A couple things just to summarize what Laura's already said. Number one, you can expand this throughout literally every single area of your business. You know, the big bang is probably in finance and accounting, whether it's AP, as Lord mentions, probably the #1 area, or AR as well. If you are trying to use it with AR, we do integrate with that with our Anytime Collect product. So we can pull in documents from Altec that support our AR, credit collections management process within Anytime Collect. I think, honestly, too many people implement it just for some core areas of the business and then forget about this great tool they have and they don't expand it into other areas. As Laura showed here today, manufacturing is huge. If you're trying to manage ISO compliance, you've got all of your documents there. You can have workflow, security, and collaboration around them, your versioning, all things that are going to be required for ISO. You look at your hard costs, and sometimes it's hard to validate what it costs you to manage documents manually. I'll tell you right now, it's a lot more than you think it is. There's a bunch of studies out there. I think most documents are touched on average about 4 times, and the cost to manually process via paper is somewhere between, I think, $7 and $11 per document. So that adds up pretty quick. Some other areas I just wanted to highlight real quick while we wait for some other questions. One is the workflow engine, which Laura touched on a little bit. It's phenomenal. You guys can set up workflow around any document, any process, have it routed, have it approved, escalations, management by exception. They can even do document assembly, automated report delivery, things that you cannot get out of any of your Sage ERP systems natively today. You know, what if you want, sales reports and you want them sent quarterly to your sales department? Right now, it's kind of difficult to do that within Sage 100 or Sage 500 or whatever application you're using. Let Document do that for you. A couple other points here. If you can print it, I'm pretty sure that Document can store it. So you can use this with other systems, not just your core ERP. Could be, I've seen them use it with Word documents, Excel documents, HR systems, CRM systems. If you can print it, they can store it for sure. Next piece is on the questions that we have here. Implementation and costs are always the very next question because everybody sees it and they fall in love with it. It's beautiful. Go through here. What's the cost? I'll speak for Altec here because the cost is going to depend, right? It's like that with any technology. It's going to depend on the different modules you need, user licenses. It's going to depend on the scope of how much you want to implement. And Laura, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, we like to kind of pick the one area where we think the company is going to get the highest return on investment, focus on that as a phase 1 implementation, let them get some familiarity with Altec, and then focus on other areas of the business. That's sort of your approach as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. Like I said, you're going from paper to a paperless environment, so there's some learning curve. We always like to walk before we can run. Now, some organizations, like depending on how computer savvy your employees are, many cases they will start in the AP, invoicing side of the house, and then expand to AR, and then HR, and so on. But others, except they want to go full on enterprise-wide. So there's no set in stone rules. It's just how quickly, how savvy your team, and how quickly do you need to get the system to go live. So we can be expandable at any time. And asking for, some of the questions I get all the time is, well, what kind of hardware is involved? In most cases, many of our clients can actually start implementing our system without any additional investment in hardware. We are a Microsoft house. We use industry standard hardware and third-party software. We are compatible with those multi-function devices, those big printer scanner copy in one. They're very fast, very powerful. About 90% of our clients use those devices. We're also compatible with desktop scanners that run on ISIS drivers. We do not require any proprietary third-party software. We prefer to have the system running on a separate dedicated server is not mandatory. But if budget is concerned, our system can coexist on the same server with other applications. But eventually, though, because your database is going to grow larger and larger every day, eventually we will recommend, to move that data to a separate dedicated server so that we don't run into system performance, bottleneck issues. Okay.
So I have another question here, Laura, and I'm going to expand on this because this is a really great question. The question is, does DocLink also integrate with some of the third-party products? The one mentioned here is the ARM, or Automated Rental Management Solution, that integrates so tightly with Sage 100. I'm going to expand that question a little bit because I know we also have customers that are using the JobOps product for manufacturing. Can you talk a little bit about support for the third parties that are so tightly integrated to Sage?
Absolutely. There are different levels of integration. We can integrate with those third-party software so we can pull data to our software to help minimize manual data entry. We can also push data out. So DocLink can be the pipeline of information. We can pull data and we can push data. An example, I have customers where they use RegLogic for rating of purchase order, but they use Sage to process payment. So to minimize the double data entry, when they create the purchase order in RegLogic, we store a copy of it in our system. We pull the data about the purchase order into our system. And then what we can do is then we push that same data over to Sage so that there's reduce the double data entry. Okay? So we can do it in that level. If you need to have the ability to view the documents in those third-party software, yes, we can also have the ability to do that. We have different tools. We have the SDK tool available. We have the URI tool, easy integration. So there's many different methods. But at the end of the day, the answer is yes, we can integrate with different third-party software applications.
Yeah, and I think that's a critical piece there too, Laura, because the example here came from rental, and I know in the rental industry there's a lot of documents, right? They've got rental agreements, they've got signed documents when they're receiving the equipment back in, verifying the condition, and there's a lot of workflow around that. So I think it's pretty critical that you guys can support not only the core accounting features, but also a lot of these kind of line of business or industry-specific applications.
And that's definitely what we can do. We have the tools to do that, yes.
Yeah. I do have another question here. This one's a little more obscure, but I'll throw it over to you and see what you think. When it comes to expense reports, does DocLink work with a specific product here called Expensify?
I personally have not worked with that application. And when you say work with Expensify, in what level?
Yeah, I think that's one where I think we'll probably need some more information. My experience working with Altec is that in many cases, some of these smaller apps that we've implemented throughout our businesses, our dependence on them tends to go away the more we learn how to use DocLink effectively. Certainly, there are other applications that have different features, especially in little niche areas that may make sense. I think with this specific question, if you want to email us after the presentation, and we'll take that dialogue offline and talk a little bit more about it, because I think we're probably missing a lot of the details we need to answer that intelligently.
Yeah, but the ideal is we would love to set up a discovery call to understand your requirements, and that way we can come up with the appropriate solution for you. Just like James said, there are many different levels of integration. So.
All right, we have another one here. How do you handle invoices for a purchase order? Is it different than how you handle it for AP data entry?
How do we handle invoice for purchase order? Are you referring to the PO invoices? If you,
Absolutely.
is that, yeah, if
I believe
so,
that's how it's reading. Yeah, she says yes.
okay. So you generate the purchase order. A copy of it gets stored into DocLink. Now when invoice comes in, it gets stored into DocLink. We can automate the process where we can do automatic matching of the purchase order for you. We can compare several things. We can compare what we call header and footer information, like the dollar amount of the invoice versus the dollar amount on the purchase order. If it doesn't meet within a certain threshold, then we will notify you or put it into exception folder for manual handling. If all looks good, then we move it up to the next stage for approval or payment. We can also read what we call line item, where we can compare the invoice line item, the SKU number, the description, the dollar amount, the quantity to the purchase order. And if it doesn't meet, match with the purchase order, then that's a flag for action to take upon. Now, we have ways to automate this process. Depending on your volume, we have OCR, where when you receive your PO invoices, we can batch store those invoices into the system. OCR will read the information on your invoice, again, down to the line level, bring it into the system, and compare it to your purchase order for automatic matching.
Okay. We have another question around the Expensify. I think we'll take that one again offline. Another question, well, actually, I'll finish up here with Laura had a response. She says it will, but it won't create a receipt of invoice entry.
What we do is, and we can set up a demonstration for you. We can, depending on which purchase order application you're using, but if we can, let's schedule a separate meeting to address that and actually demonstrate it to the client.
Yeah, that's a great point, Laura. Sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So just being able to talk through it and see it in action makes a lot more sense. Right now, I'm seeing one more question here, unless we have some others coming through. Does DocLink work with hosted CRM applications like Salesforce?
We can pull. We don't have a direct code integration with Salesforce, but we can pull data from Salesforce, and we can push data from Salesforce. Any document generated from Salesforce we can capture, but for viewing of documents in Salesforce, not at this time.
Okay. You know, at this point, I'm not seeing any other questions. You know, everybody on the webinar today, you guys know how to reach us, obviously, because we got you on the webinar. And just contact your account manager here within EDB Technologies. And, you know, we're not high-pressure sales here. We'll set up a call with Altec, try to understand your requirements a little bit, set up a personalized demonstration so you can see the software in action. We can talk a little bit more about some of the specifics, things like Expensify, or some of these other applications that you guys are using in your business. But I just want to take this opportunity right now to thank Altec for doing a fantastic presentation here. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you haven't implemented document management, this is one of the few applications that, if done right, can provide a tremendous return on investment in a very short period of time. So if you don't think that you have in your budget, I'll challenge you, because I think that you're already wasting that money today. I think you're going to get a real fast ROI, and I know Altec will help put together an ROI study if you guys want to understand what your expenses are today and how you can offset that by leveraging technology in their application. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Laura for any closing remarks, and we'll close down the webinar for today.
Well, thank you again, folks, for the opportunity. I do want to close with saying that we are the alliance partner of Sage. So being an alliance partner is a big benefit for you as a customer. You can upgrade your Sage application or DocLink at any time, and rest assured that the compatibility, the integration is there. There are many products out there that will tell you, oh yes, we can integrate with Sage, but they go through a process called screen scraping method. Okay, so that means when you upgrade Sage or the document management system, the integration is broken. Therefore, you as a customer have to pay additional professional services to redo that integration. Okay, so that's something you need to keep in mind. Being that, you know, we've been in business since 1985, we have over 4,000 clients worldwide. And so solid, proven system, great reference for you, a lot of people, reference for you to talk to when it comes to our company and our solution. If you're questioning is going paperless and document management the right solution, something for you, I would definitely say so. I've been in the business document management for over 18 years. And, I've trained customers that not computer savvy, and now they love the system. It becomes like a microwave, a tool, a technology that they can't live without, and wonder why they didn't do it sooner. So there's some hesitation in many of you going paperless, but it's just all part of the learning curve. Okay. And like I said, we are going to be at Sage Summit, so please stop by our booth, meet our team, see a live demo, and love to talk to you about how we can help you folks save money and go paperless.
Excellent. And I'll close with just a few more points here, just real quick. The first point is, as far as there's a lot of different options on the market for document management, and Laura pointed something out that is pretty key. Not only are they the preferred vendor for document management with Sage, they've been doing it a very long time. They have a lot of former Sage employees. They're located literally within driving distance of the Sage office. They have a great working relationship with not only Sage, but also with the entire Sage channel partner community. We've been working with them for a number of years, and they're top-notch. At the end of the day, they're a company you can trust. If something goes awry, for whatever reason, you can rest assured that they're ethical. They're going to do whatever they can within reason on their end to get you guys back on track. And they don't fail. When they're doing the implementations, they go off really well because they have people that know the software. It's not like you're going to get somebody that just came out of college and had 2 hours of training on DocLink. Last but not least, before we close out here, I did have a question whether the presentation was being recorded. Absolutely. We will be posting that up to our YouTube channel. It'll probably be a private link. We may make it public. But we will definitely send out a link to you to be able to access this video. Hopefully, share it with other coworkers that may have an interest in reviewing it or watch it again later at your leisure. So with that, again, thank you very much, Laura, for the excellent presentation. And I know this is just kind of a teaser, if you will, kind of a high-level overview of what Altec can do. If you guys were to really show us the product, we'd probably be here for a day or two. But certainly we appreciate your support in getting this information out to our customers and prospects.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, everyone, we're going to let you have the rest of your day back, and hopefully we'll see you on a webinar here soon. Take care, and we will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.